I'm delighted to be here in Perth, Western Australia, in the Commissioner Col Blanch's office. Col, thank you so much for inviting Policing TV here for a second visit to Perth and to Western Australia Police. We've got quite a series of recordings to do over the next 2 days. I'd like to start, though, by telling us a little bit about your policing journey. What led you to join the police in the first place?
Well, I grew up in Perth in Western Australia. My father got a job in Melbourne in Victoria just as I was finishing high school. So what I actually did was go with the family, of course. I was too young to live by myself. As much as I loved Perth, I didn't have a choice. So I actually moved to Victoria, to Melbourne, and I was a jack of all trades, I suppose, and I was looking for an adventure as a young man, 19, 20 years old, so I thought policing seemed fun. And I'll be honest, as a young man, it was fun. And so I joined the Victoria Police as my first forte into policing. I didn't have a policing family, I didn't have policing friends, so it was quite a solo journey to start with, but I found a family, I found a blue family, and I loved the job. Probably what attracted me the most was that sense of adventure, but I got to help people, and I was able to solve crimes. So that was, my first few years of policing. I became a detective, and then I started to get involved in a couple of organised crime jobs later in my career. And I had the opportunity to learn about an agency at the time. It was called the National Crime Authority. So it was a federal agency, and it looked at organised crime activity across Australia and the world. And I thought, well, that seems pretty interesting, and I didn't mind the organised crime environment. So I happened to get seconded to what then became the Australian Crime Commission, and spent the next 15 years there, flying around the world, working with partner agencies. Certainly really attracted me to how different agencies do things, and I really found that looking at best practice in policing was something I love to do. I love to look at how agencies approach problems, how they solve crimes, how they work with their community. And I learned all this in an organised crime setting, but I got to see the ground police work of many, many police forces around the world. So that yearning of getting back to street policing was always very strong. In 2014, we had a new CEO come into the Australian Crime Commission, and his name happened to be Chris Dawson. And he was a Deputy Commissioner from Western Australia Police, my hometown. And Chris and I got on extremely well, and he was the CEO of the ACC. He then became the Commissioner of Western Australian Police in about 2017. And a position opened up for the Assistant Commissioner of Intelligence back in Western Australia Police, which for me was an obvious application. Wanted to come home, put my application in, and was successful in becoming the Assistant Commissioner back in WA. And that was good for a number of reasons. I was able to take all my learnings from around the world, from different police forces. I was able to work back with the community that I grew up in, and it really did settle me, my family, and being able to give back to the community that basically grew me up as a young person. So that's the journey of policing. Obviously, I found my way to a Deputy Commissioner and then finally a Commissioner, and here I am.
Here you are, and indeed, I think that former Commissioner Chris Dawson will be at a cultural event that we will be attending a little later this morning. We're going to cover in this series of videos that we're recording over these few days both the technological journey that Western Australia Police has been on, with you very much in the forefront of that, and also elements relating to Western Australia recruiting from overseas, and in particular from the British Isles. So with that in mind, now do please tell us something about Western Australia Police itself. It has a reputation as being the largest geographic police force in the world. Is that right?
It is, and it's the largest single jurisdiction for police. Now that poses all sorts of challenges with geography. Population-wise, we are not that large in comparison to the east coast states of Australia. There's about nearly 3 million people here in Western Australia, but about 2.6 or 7 million of those are located in the metropolitan area. So the metro area is quite dense, but the other 2.3 odd million square kilometres are quite sparse of population. However, a lot of our First Nations people live in regional WA. So there are communities, particularly the northern part of Australia, the northwestern part of Australia, that has primarily Indigenous populations. And we have to police those populations just like we police here in Perth, but they require very different responses because of the tyranny of distance, because of the tyranny of capability and specialist capability. It is a challenge. Now, our history in WA over many, many years, obviously since the police force was set up after colonialism started, we've had a history that has been potted with bad behaviour against Indigenous people. In 2018, Commissioner Chris Dawson apologised to the First Nations people of Australia about the relationship between police and First Nations people. And that has really set us on a journey about ensuring that as police officers, our job is to work with community. Now, modern policing, and our system is taken from the British system, and we very much follow the Peelian principles. It is about policing by consent. It is about working with our community, and it is about ensuring that the community want to be policed. And I think those values, very much driven by former Commissioner and now myself, have really helped heal a lot of those relationships, to the point where I watch our police today, and they are an amazing group of people. They fall in love with communities when they work in them across the entire state. They are looked very, very highly upon by our community. In fact, when I travel around the state, I often call it the WA Police Fan Club, because when I talk to the community or the local governments, they say, we love having your police here. They are part of the community. They coach sports. They're part of the teams. They go to community events after hours. And I think that demonstrates who our people are. They love their community. They love working within it. And I think that's where we see our success.
The technological side, as I say, we'll come back to. There are some particular policing challenges, the size of geography, for example, that you're covering, and how you cope with that, including with some air support that I know we'll also be taking a look at. Tell us about how successful you've been in terms of investigating the most serious crimes across the force.
Look, we have three priorities, and without getting into the boredom of strategic frameworks, I'll go back to the first one is people, and you can't investigate or be successful as a police force without good people who know their business, can work with community, can be boots on the ground, face-to-face engagement, listening, talking, all of the human skills that we have is the priority. But in 2024, data is king. And I often say to our police, we are a data agency that does policing, because we are collecting so much information that can help us solve crimes, that if we don't understand the data, if we can't do analysis over the data, then we won't be able to solve the crimes. And that includes, automatic number plate recognition, telecommunications data, forensics intelligence. There's so much data being collected that 5 years ago we undertook a technology reform that really focused on how we understand our data. The first part is collecting it, because we do have to collect it across 2.5 million square kilometres, which is a challenge. So from a technology perspective, we've started to roll out Starlink antennas on all of our vehicles. So at least the police officers who have mobility, they all have mobile phones, the latest mobile phones, they're able to collect the information. We can collect it from CCTV, ANPR, telecommunications. It's about getting the data somewhere to understand it. So we have a State Operations Command Centre, so all of the data comes into there, and then we have analysts, we have detectives, everyone working 24/7 in this State Operations Command Centre that can rapidly process the information. So when we have a serious crime, it's just not the attending officers who are working on solving that crime. We have our State Operations Command Centre with multi-skills, multidisciplinary, multi-agency sitting in there, and we try to resolve it as quick as possible using as many capabilities. So we have, over the last 5 years, we have not had an unsolved homicide. Every crime, every serious crime has been solved by WA Police, and I put that down to the good people of the police force, but also their ability to access, understand and use that data to solve crime. And I've got to say that that's not me as the Commissioner doing that. These are brilliant people who are passionate about solving crime, and I'm a proud Commissioner to say the least.
Understandably so, from my previous visit and from watching what you are doing as a force in the technological field and beyond. It's an exciting place to be for absolutely the right reasons. So, Commissioner Col Blanch, for the time being, thank you so much for that introduction to Western Australia Police and indeed your own career.
Thanks, Bernard.